You know, Meta built an absolute empire on data. But what happens when the very thing that made you successful, your greatest asset, suddenly becomes your biggest liability? Well, we're about to dive deep into the data strategy crisis at Meta. And believe me, it's a cautionary tale for our times.
This is the question, right? It's really the core of Meta's whole story. It's a paradox that honestly haunts a lot of tech companies. But for Meta, it played out on a global stage in a way that truly shook everything up. For years and years, Meta, back when it was just Facebook, built this massive empire on one single thing: data. It was the fuel, the oil that powered its incredible growth, connecting billions of us and creating one of the most powerful advertising machines in human history. So, let's pop the hood and take a look. How did this incredible data-fueled engine actually work? At its heart, the model was, well, it was deceptively simple, but it was powerful enough to build a global empire.
It was basically a three-step dance. First, you collect just staggering amounts of user data: what you like, who you talk to, every single thing you click on. Step 2, you feed all of that into these incredibly powerful AI systems to analyze and predict what you're going to do next. And finally, step 3, you use those predictions to serve up hyper-targeted ads that advertisers were, of course, willing to pay a fortune for. And this created this incredibly powerful feedback loop. See, the more data they got, the smarter the AI became. The smarter the AI, the more we all stayed on the platform, which in turn generated, you guessed it, even more data. It really looked like a perfect, unstoppable system for growth. But lurking just beneath the surface was a huge, unseen vulnerability.
And that brings us to the real heart of the crisis. And what's so fascinating is that the problem wasn't what most people thought it was. It went way deeper than just collecting data. It pointed to this fundamental flaw in how the company was actually run.
A lot of people thought, oh, the problem is that Meta is using our data. But let's be real, that was always the deal, right? That was the trade-off for getting a free service. The real crisis was something far more subtle and, frankly, way more dangerous.
So, here it is. This is the key insight. The failure wasn't in using data. It was in the total and complete lack of guardrails. I mean, imagine building a race car engine, but completely forgetting to install brakes or a steering wheel. That's what happened here. It was a crisis of governance.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's break down that failure. For one, users like us had almost no idea how our data was really being used. Then you have third parties getting access to that data with very little control, which, as we know, led to some massive scandals. And maybe most importantly, the AI was built to do just one thing: maximize engagement, with absolutely no thought given to the long-term impact on people or society.
You see, this lack of governance wasn't just some accident or an oversight. No, it was a strategic choice, and it was a choice that created this huge conflict, chasing those short-term wins no matter the long-term cost. And this chart just lays it out so perfectly. The company was obsessed with things they could measure right now: engagement, ad revenue, platform growth. But in chasing those numbers, they completely neglected the things that actually make a business last: user trust, having clear ethical lines you don't cross, and thinking about the massive risk of governments eventually stepping in.
I mean, this is it. This is a business school 101 concept, right? By optimizing for these immediate wins, Meta was essentially burning the furniture to heat the house. They were trading away their long-term health.
And of course, a strategy like that can't last forever. Eventually, the bill comes due. And when it did, the result was inevitable: a complete and total breakdown of trust.
And the fallout was massive. You had this huge public backlash that just hammered the brand. Governments all around the world started to wake up and respond with tough new regulations like GDPR. And crucially, users started to seriously question whether they could trust the platform with their digital lives anymore.
And look, that loss of trust wasn't just some bad PR. It was an earthquake, because it struck at the absolute foundation of Meta's entire business model.
Think about it. That whole engine we talked about, it runs on one thing: us, willingly sharing our information. When that trust disappears, people share less, they get more cautious, and the data that feeds those hungry algorithms starts to dry up. The whole system just begins to seize up.
So after all of that, what's the big takeaway? What's the moral of this whole story? Well, it really all boils down to a fundamental shift in how we have to think about data itself.
And this is the line to remember. For so long, companies just saw data as a resource, like oil, something to be extracted and sold.
But the real lesson here is that having people's data is a profound responsibility. It requires careful stewardship, a strong ethical compass, and a focus on the long run.
So this gives us 4 really crucial lessons, especially now in the age of AI. 1. A data strategy without governance is just a ticking time bomb. 2. Trust isn't some fuzzy feel-good metric. It's a hard asset that directly impacts your value. 3. Just optimizing an AI for engagement is reckless. You have to think about the long-term impact. And finally, you have to build regulatory risk right into your strategy from day one, because it's not a matter of if regulators will come, but when.
And it's so important to land on this final point. Meta's crisis didn't happen because it used data. It happened because the company completely failed to build the systems, the ethics, and the governance needed to manage the incredible power and consequences that came with using it at such an unbelievable global scale.
And as we all move deeper and deeper into this age of artificial intelligence, where data is more powerful than we can even imagine, that distinction, the one between simply using data and responsibly managing it, that is going to be the single biggest factor that decides who succeeds and who fails.